Hey everybody, the Super Vader 400 here, back for another retro review, and this time, this is my second webcam review of the Street Fighter animated series that aired between 1995 and 1997. I didn't like the quality in the first two Street Fighter webcam videos I did on this channel, so I'm redoing both of those I'm gonna redo both of those videos. The first video I did, of course, was a webcam review of the Street Fighter animated series. This is actually my third review. There's also a narration review on my Super Vader 400 account. The Street Fighter animated series. I first saw the Street Fighter animated series in the mid to late 90s, and I've been a huge fan of it ever since. And I was so happy when I discovered YouTube so I could watch this awesome cartoon again. And this cartoon is even better as an adult. See, I remember most of the cheese tastic. I saw and remember most of the cheese tastic first season of the Street Fighter animated series. But Street Fighter animated series. But then thanks to YouTube, I got to finish the rest of the series, which with Street Fighter, where the rest of the series, starting with the last five, the last the last seven, 5 to 7 episodes of the Street Fighter animated series. This is where the animation changes. The earlier seasons look like a low budget X-Men GI Joe cartoon. The latter seasons look reminiscent of a Japanese anime. The latter episodes of season one and all of season two look like a Japanese anime. Features lots of cartoony Japanese style animation. The animation in the series was done by Graz Entertainment, who also did the X-Men animated series, and Madhouse Sunrise and Envision Entertainment, also USA Studios. So that explains the Japanese animation like design. Also, Capcom had a lot of input in this awesome series. Before I get to this review, I'm gonna immediately address the haters. This show doesn't get bashed on as much as the Darkstalkers cartoon or the Mortal Kombat cartoon. This cartoon still gets a negative reception for most people for being in the earlier seasons. It was campy and borrowed from GI Joe and GI Joe. And the earlier episodes, while there was street fighting, one thing I love about this versus the movie was there was actual street fighting here, but here they do more than that. It features Guile. The plot of this show features Guile leading a team of international street fighters on various missions against the criminal organization Shadow Law. Shadow Law. They're giving orders by his superior Etcher, which the episode's one plots begins the plot for the entire series. In episode one, Etcher calls Guile for a mission to stop Bison from spreading a virus. And on this mission, he tells Guile to contact several Street Fighters. He recruits Chun Li, Blanca, and much to his dismay, Ryu and Ken, who pretty much in the earlier seasons are pretty much serve as the bulk and skull of the seasons. They become more prominent latter seasons. One of the only things I didn't like about this series was how weak Ryu was in the series. Believe it or not, I actually like his new comical personality. He's not too far from the game. He's weaker than he was in the game, and he's not his super stealth he is in the game. In the game, but I actually liked his personality in this series. I didn't like him being weak. Had him being weak though. I didn't like him being weak though. But yeah, so that was the only thing I didn't like. I didn't mind Guile being the main character because despite the fact that Guile was the main character, several characters in the series got episodes of their own, and they, like I said, one thing I like, even though Guile was pretty much the main character, each character got an episode where they must overcome an obstacle, or an episode that focused on their strengths and weaknesses, where they would learn a moral at the end of the day: honor, justice, commitment, the Street Fighter code. Like I said, the earlier episodes were pretty much GI Joe, and pretty much X Men and GI Joe, which is what this series is similar to. It's pretty much what you get when you combine those two things together. You'll get the Street Fighter series. You'll get the Street Fighter series. Like in GI Joe, all the Street Fighter characters, not only do they participate in the street fighting tournament, that was one thing I loved about this cartoon versus the movie. The movie didn't have a lot of street fighting for a film called Street Fighter. This series has the Street Fighter tournament. When the characters are not on a mission, they're competing in the Street Fighter tournament. And in several episodes, like one of the most memorable episodes, the episode 8, which gave us the hilarious yes, 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 and this is delicious. Bison's yes, and this is delicious. And of course, Balrog typing with boxing gloves. They used the tournament plot in several episodes. That's one thing I like. The International Street Fighting Tournament. I hate how other adaptations of Street Fighter didn't have this, but this series did. Did. And another thing I love about this cartoon was the unintentional camp. The unintentional camp and comedy, which that also turned a lot of people off. Instead of being, I think most people wanted a anime style, what's that anime called again? Baki the Grappler, Bloodsport type series. This was, like I said, this was more GI Joe and X Men. Like X Men, each character has their powers, and while there is some hand-to-hand combat action in this series, it's mostly characters using their powers. Hadoukens, Sonic Booms, Flash Kicks, Psycho Drivers, Bison teleporting and doing all his psycho power moves, Chun-Li spin wheel kicks, Blanca's roll and electric power, Vega has his claws, Zangief is superhumanly strong, a Honda, 100 hand slap, Fei Long, the flaming kick, I don't remember DJ doing his moves. Um, yeah, and what's his name? Another thing I like about this, so yeah, you get more power. Something the live action movie they left out because it was said they left all that stuff out due to the poorly received Super Mario Brothers movie, which had all the fantasy elements. But this was much different than the Super Mario Brothers. So I wish that Steven D'Souza, who directed I think he directed or produced the Street Fighter movie. I wish he would have left. I wish he would have left all that stuff in. And speaking of what you call it, this series is loosely based on the Street Fighter live action film. Some say it's a continuation, but in my opinion, it's not. I don't watch it as a continuation. I watch it as an adaptation of this movie right here. The live action film, the Street Fighter 2 the Street Fighter 2 video game series, both the original Street Fighter 2 and the update, the Super Street Fighter 2 series, and of course, latter seasons incorporate elements from the Street Fighter Alpha series, particularly Alpha 1 and 2, and finally, the Final Fight series. One thing I loved about this series, I like how this series first off corrected all the mistakes from this movie. First off, they switched while I love Balrog as a good guy in this film, they switched the alliances back to what they were. Balrog is now a bad guy and is with Shadowlaw, and DJ is now with the good guys and is more of a fighter in this film. I loved Miguel Munez in this film, but I did not like his DJ character. I did not like DJ's characterization in this film, even though Miguel Munez was awesome in this movie. So I like DJ being closer to his character here, Fei Long, who was left out of this film for copyright reasons and because he was seen as too generic in comparison to the other cast, he was included in this film. And they also brought back Captain Sawada, who was good, but who was the replacement for Fei Long. Here, they also brought back Captain Sawada and added more depth to Gal and Captain Sawada's relationship, which I thought was pretty cool and overlooked. A lot of see, because people hated this series so much for the changes it made to Street Fighter, they overlooked all the good stuff that this cartoon brought us. And like I said, I think this cartoon right here, besides the Street Fighter Alpha movie and of course the comic books, I think this is the best adaptation of Street Fighter. I think this cartoon was the best adaptation of Street Fighter outside outside of the video games. Next is next is so yeah, the live action film, the it corrected the stuff from the live action film, correct the stuff from various things from the live action film, and of course incorporate. And one thing I like, it was also based on Street Fighter 2. This series, one thing I love about this series, this is one thing I usually loved about the animated cartoons versus their Japanese counterparts, their Japanese anime counterparts. This Street Fighter cartoon gave you every single damn character that appeared in the Street Fighter franchise at that time. Ryu, Ken, Guile, Chun-Li, Honda, Zangief, Blanca, um, DJ, Fei Long, T-Hawk, who they also improved from the film. In the film, he was a watered-down version of Guile. Here, he was closer to his video game counterpart, Cammy, who in the film, I love Kylie Minogue as Cammy, but she mostly didn't do much and was mostly just a female version of Guile in that film. Here, she's that, but then they later incorporate her storylines from the game with her being brainwashed by Bison. They also bring in her Delta Red characters from the video game. So like I said, give this series gave you every single damn character. Continuing, Vega, Balrog, and Bison himself. Akuma appeared as an antagonist in two episodes. That one episode even provided an interesting scenario where Guile and Bison, hated rivals, who were the deadliest of enemies, teamed up to defeat Akuma, a more powerful enemy. Who Akuma in this series, they made him the Street Fighter version of Shang Tsung in this series. Then of course, when Akuma appeared later, Ryu and Ken fight him, and here they had Ken be the one to take down Akuma. If you know the game, that is not possible. That is not possible. That is not possible. Then next they gave you some Street Fighter Alpha characters like Birdie and Adon. Then some Final Fight characters like Guy. Mike Hager appears in this series, even though he doesn't fight. And finally Cody, Rolling Toe, and Saddam. And of course the Mad Gear Gang. Like I said, lots. This gives you every single damn character they appeared at this time. Sadly to say, while this series was given a finale, this series ended in 1997 when USA got rid of their cartoon block. How cool would it have been for this series to continue? See, they were already adapting Alpha 1 and 2. I would love for them to adapt Alpha 3 where Cody gets sent to jail. And has the prison uniform, has the prison outfit. And then how cool would it have been for them to finally adapt Street Fighter 3, which they rarely adapt outside the video game, which has rarely been adapted outside the video game. Street Fighter 3 with Uri and Gil, Yun and Yang, and Alex and Dudley, those characters, and Oral. How cool, a Street Fighter cartoon with those characters. Then continuing, this series, like I said, there was one episode called The Warrior King, which was a crossover with the Mortal Kombat with the Mortal Kombat series and the Savage Dragon series, and of course the Wing Commander series, another video game series. Once again, first time we were going to get a crossover between Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. Then, of course, how cool would have been for Street Fighter 4, the Street Fighter 4 characters like Abel, CP Viper, Yuri, and um Abel, those characters in a Street Fighter game, adapting that for what's his name. So like I said, so many cool things, but like I said, this show ended in 1997. It was given some closure with Guile, Zangief, Sagat, and all of them teaming up to defeat Bison. And of course, the episode before that was probably like one of the best episodes of the series. There were so many awesome episodes. Final fight where Ryu and Ken team up with Cody to infiltrate the Mad Gear Gang and save Jessica, who was kidnapped. Then, like I said, you had the medium is the message, which provided us with the hilarious yes, and this is delicious. Then of course I mentioned Strange Befellows, which featured Guile and Bison teaming up to fight Akuma. Then of course Street Fighter the episode 15 with T-Hawk. Um then T-Hawk, he had an expanded role in this series. Like I said, I love the episode I think it was 14. I think it was episode 14, yeah, 15, which added more depth to the Sawada and Guile character, with Sawada taking Guile's position, and them clashing over, but making up in the end. Then of course incorporating various episodes, incorporating Cammy's Delta Red series. I love the episodes focusing on Ken's weaknesses, his fondness for making money, his lack of discipline. Then, of course, the episode where he was making a movie with Fei Long and was getting distracted by partying and stuff. And finally learned the valuable lesson at the end of the series. Ken was probably one of the more developed characters. Ken and Ryu are probably the more developed characters of this series. And Ryu, I love how they focused on how Ryu in this series wasn't much of a fighter, which they tackled in the world's greatest warrior episode, where Akuma came back to fight Ryu and Ken, where how Ryu was talking about how he wasn't a fighter. He didn't learn until he trained with Ken and what's his name. Then of course Ryu defeated Sagat in a hilarious adaptation of their epic fight from the games, where he gave Sagat the Shoryuken, and Sagat, you scarred me for life. There's several unintentionally funny moments, including one scene where one of Delta Red's members was on top of Bison, and he said, "Now it's your turn to be on the receiving end for this. You're receiving end for this." He meant something else, but that position and saying that line just made it funny. And there's several hilarious one-liners. One scene where Dalsim says, "Not if I was bound by your metaphysics," and several scenes. And oh yeah, in the beginning, Bison, when he leaves, Bison, and you see some flames behind Guile when he says that. So like I said, several unintentionally funny moments in this cartoon. And oh yeah, and Sagat, in one of my actually least favorite episodes of the series is episode 4, because there wasn't much hand-to-hand combat action between Guile and Sagat in this episode. It was a good episode, but there wasn't much action in this episode, where Sagat said, "Hey, you like cornflakes?" Yeah, what's his name? What's his name? And then, of course, like I said, awesome series. This is just me talking about several awesome episodes and moments from this underrated cartoon, in my opinion. I'm going to be redoing my season reviews. As I did one of season 1, I'm going to redo it, and I'm going to redo season 2. Episode starts off kind of slow. It has a lot of stiff animation in the early episodes, and there isn't much action. But it gets real good starting with episode 7. Starting with episode 7 and all the way to the end of the series. They also introduce Rose in the second part, or in the second part of the series, and even Sakura. So like I said, um introducing lots of characters and stuff from the games, which I thought was pretty cool. Like I said, underrated cartoon. I think this was the best adaptation of Street Fighter outside the video games, besides the comics and the Street Fighter Alpha movie. Well, like I said, this was my second webcam review of the Street Fighter the animated series cartoon. I'm gonna be doing seasons reviews and a video review in the future. All right, I'm done.